Hello, my name is Carol May Whittick, your creativity and spiritual life coach, and your host of Her Conversations Tools for the Awakening. Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. This is the optimal state to embody in order to attract our highest desires. What is the awakening? This is the moment in time when humanity rises up out of the darkness. Who is awakening? Each one of us present on earth today, reclaiming our sovereignty, seeking greater possibilities in our reality, and looking for solutions. We know being awakened is not a lofty ideal, but a necessity. If we can transform ourselves, we can change the world. Guests on Her Conversations will speak to your spirituality, sensuality, and soul. Listen to their stories and hear how they are in service to the world. Let their words and these conversations embolden and inspire you. And before we go into this episode with Christen and James, I want to share with you some ways that I can support you. I'm grateful for you listening to Her Conversations, but did you know that I also have a sister podcast, Her Inspirations, where each episode I explore a different aspect of our creative and spiritual journeys. And if you listen to that episode and also join the mailing list, you'll receive emails with additional teaching points, resources for you to explore deeper on your personal journey. Or if you're someone that's always wanted to be heard in the world, and whether that means your own podcast is launching, you're showing up more on social media, launching a public speaking career, or simply being more vocal in your life, I've created Your Awakened Voice for you, and this is my course which uses a holistic approach, acknowledging the intricate connection between your physical body, mind and spirit. This course empowers you to discover and develop your voice. Or maybe you're ready for a more one-to-one and personal experience with me. If you know that there's a purpose to your life, my purpose is here to support you. In particular, I work with women over 40, helping you to trust your intuition, rediscover that innate creativity, and then use your decades of wisdom to design a purposeful life. All the links to these are in the show notes below. My guest this week is Christen N. James, the Side Hustle Success Coach. She empowers 9-to-5 women to level up their side hustles using her 3 pillars: emotions, mindset, and strategy. She's also a Reiki Master, and her coaching is infused with Reiki to help enhance her clients' alignment. During our conversation, Christen shares about her own journey from corporate career to coaching clients who are making their own transition from employee to entrepreneur, the important mindset and identity shifts they need to make to do so, and how they can use their current position to prepare them to confidently step away. So as always, I begin by asking my guest, Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. When do you feel that higher energetic resonance?
When I am meditating, I like to meditate every morning, start my day with some meditation, but also throughout the day, bringing myself back to that moment when I start to feel certain thoughts or beliefs coming up, old stories coming up, is coming back to the present and taking a moment to pause and reflect and remember that I have everything that I need within me. Universe will provide, God will provide. So it starts in the morning, but I try my best throughout the day to take a moment.
And before we get deeper into our conversation and you sharing your own expertise, I just want to give you, the floor to just tell a bit about your story and take it away, Christen.
Okay. My story, there are a couple levels to it. So I have been an entrepreneur for 8 years. I was in corporate, the 9-to-5 setting before then. And while I was actually still in corporate, had started my spiritual journey. So I was very much into yoga. I started to pay attention a little bit more to meditation and how that can really help me to just show up as a better version of myself, because I wasn't feeling very fulfilled at my 9. I didn't hate it, but I wasn't feeling very fulfilled at my 9-to-5. So I definitely would say I started that spiritual piece then. It actually paid off. It worked out, because fast forward a couple of years and I realized, okay, you know what, it's time for me to, I don't want to be here anymore. I started telling anyone I would listen, by the end of this year, this is my last year here. I don't know what things are going to look like, but this is my last year here. And fast forward a few months and they were making the announcement they were laying us off. They were closing down our department. So I had actually put it out in the universe. I was really ready because it's something I always say that I stayed in my 9 to 5, 5 years longer than I wanted to. I just didn't have the tools, the resources. I didn't have the know-how. But then it got to a point where I'm like, okay, something's got to give. Something has to change, and I'm ready to do it now. And I just left it into God's hands. I just left it in universe's hands. I just kept saying, this is the year. Things are going to change this year. I put it on my vision board, leave corporate and coaching right beside one another. I called, I'll never forget, a former coworker, and I saw she on LinkedIn had updated her LinkedIn to say she was a coach. And I said, I really want to talk to you about that because I'm going to be leaving this year. I was just, every chance I got, I talked about it. And fast forward a few months and they were making the announcement. And I said, wow, okay. If I didn't believe in the law of attraction before then, I absolutely do now. But the one thing I always say about law of attraction, manifestation, all of that is I knew I was ready. And I knew I was ready to step into that unknown where I wasn't before. So it wasn't just like I sat there and it's like, hope things would magically appear. But it was a journey in just my mindfulness and me making, and just my decisiveness. And it actually really happened. And it's just been beautiful. I went back to school, got certified as a coach. And I have just been supporting women who are still in that 9 to 5 corporate setting on their own journey to feeling unfulfilled to doing what they want, their own thing. And to now it's organically, because I've become a side hustle success coach is what I like to describe myself as. While you're still at your 9 to 5, let's work on what you're building your own thing. I want to have my own thing is what I always hear. I want to be in control of my time. All right. So let's see what we need to work on while you're still at your 9 to 5, and you can leverage that so you can be able to define your freedom.
That's kind of how it happened to me in my last job as well. I didn't even realize I was speaking it out loud.
Yeah.
It was 2009, so the writing was on the wall anyway, because we just come out of 2008, and the last job, proper job, like office job, 9 to 5 job that I had was then. And I could see from about November, December, because part of one of my roles was chasing invoices and based on the sales that came in. And usually it was very easy to call people up and get them to pay because we'd offer a discount and then we'd get bonuses. And it was, it was just me and a friend of mine. And we didn't really have to try that hard until then we'd noticed there were less sales coming in.
Okay.
And so we had less people to call on to hit our monthly bonuses to get the money to come in. And then so from then on, it was like, okay, something's gonna happen, something's gonna change.
Something's gotta give.
Yeah. Because the company that I work for was a marketing spend. So and we work with big businesses like major law firms in London, as well as like one-man bands, small to medium-sized business, quite everyone across the board really. And especially many of the small to medium and kind of one-man bands just kind of nixed their marketing spend as soon as things went down, and that's what hit us. So you could see month after month, it was like, okay, like I don't know how long this is going to last for, but it was still a surprise that it happened. But I remember the day, I think I told you this before, I'd gone to like this conference for singer-songwriters because I was still doing music at the same time as doing this full-time job, I was trying to be sensible. And just sitting there, like speaking to someone going, if there was just a way that I could just sit and, focus on my writing instead of like trying to do a full-time job. And, I was doing a full-time job. I was taking singing lessons. I was taking driving lessons. I was taking piano lessons. I was busy. And then this job was just in the way, like with all the things that I was doing.
I get what you mean. I get what you mean. And then, but then, because we're not really given those tools, we know we want more. We want this thing. It was like, you see it on the other side of the room, essentially like, how do I get there? Right. So it's until eventually, universe says, oh my goodness, here.
Yeah.
Here you go, shove.
So it went, one day we went into the office. The next day I went into the office and we were kind of looking around going, some of the computers missing, and it's just like the room feels a little bit bare. And then there was a group of people that came in and just got everyone to sit down, started giving them forms to fill in for their redundancy package. And then I
Oh,
just like walked out and went, okay. And at that point as well, I made a promise to myself. I'm like, that was way too easy for me to just walk in one day and they go, you haven't got a job. It wasn't like I was mourning the job because I knew that
yeah,
I wanted out. The boss, the guy who ran it, did he kind of like ran out the room. I mean, he was probably really embarrassed, but he didn't say thank you or sorry to anyone. I'd been there for 3 years and seen the company build from like 5 people to like a sales room and a production room and everything like that. And for someone to just come in and and scuttle out, I'm
yeah.
like,
Hey, okay, thanks, bye. Yeah,
yeah,
weird.
I'm just like, no, 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 that's not going to happen. And I just thought I need to figure this out. It took me a while because, I'm coming out of being an employee into going into the
Yeah,
world of entrepreneurship. But all I knew is I was starting to see people in coffee shops behind laptops.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's
You're
that's
like,
what
oh, this can be a thing.
I'm like,
Okay.
what are they doing? It's like, and they say that they're working and earning money. I'm like, how so? You know,
Yeah, yeah. And
that was
you realize you wanted to be there. You realize, and that's why that's the thing too with my 9 to 5 is I felt like I was being confined. We were literally in boxes, we were in cubicles, and I just felt
mm,
so stifled, right? And
mm,
to see those people sitting at, their laptops at the coffee shops, and they're mobile. They're just taking their laptops where they could be on a beach, and it's just, and it was, you didn't have that confinement anymore. I think that's you realize that could be me. Like, how do I get there? And that mindset shift starts to happen because you start to really believe it and feel it. And that's when
yeah,
things really start to move for
yeah.
you.
But I mean, it took like a good couple of years because then I just had to try and figure out this internet thing, because I don't know, we'd only just started using the internet at that job. It was like when I started in the sales department. So when we did sales, we were still transitioning to getting people to send us the confirmation of their sales by fax. This is the turning point. This is where I was. And YouTube was a new thing.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we were selling as part of our, we were doing marketing for people is we'll do videos and we'll put you on YouTube. And that's when you could sell the idea to people for thousands of pounds.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
like, oh my
Yeah.
God, you're going to put us on YouTube. And
YouTube.
I'm like,
Yeah. It was like a
yeah.
thing. Yeah. I remember those days. YouTube was a hot
Dude,
commodity. Somebody has a YouTube channel. Like, oh.
exactly. Like now that you can't just phone someone, go, I'll make you a YouTube video. They're like, I've got a smartphone. Like you need,
I am doing that already, but thanks. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely, for sure. I
yeah.
get it.
So
I get it.
but yeah, let me kind of go back and walk back a little bit then.
Hmm.
So you've got someone reaches out to you and they're in that stage
Hmm.
of I'm in this 9 to 5 job, maybe they feel that they've hit the ceiling in terms of as far as they're going to go
Right.
or as far as
Yeah.
they want to go. Maybe,
Yeah.
it could be one
Yeah.
or the other. Maybe they've got some ideas, especially in this day and age now, you're going to see there's so much more opportunity. Online software is your friend. Like it was clunky back
Yeah.
then. It's so much easier to
Yeah.
navigate now as well and get things up. But
Hmm.
there's so much for them to do because you're stepping out of knowing that you're going to get paid on a certain day or days every month, whether you do 10% of your work or 90
Right.
or 100, you just have to like dial it in. And usually, for the most part, you will get paid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas now you're stepping into a space where it's all on you and it's all about you. And
Yeah.
how do you start to infuse the confidence and the trust in themselves in the women when they feel like they're about to walk into this unknown?
Yes. I love that question because it's when a woman comes to me, one of the first things I always hear is, I'm not there yet. So they know they want to leave. They know they see the potential in following through, turning their passion into profit, but there is a mindset shift that has to happen. So when I start to talk about, I help them design a 3D exit strategy:
Mm.
dedicate, decide, depart. But I always stress the journey is different for each person. It could be typically the program's a year long, might take you 2. It could
Mm.
take you 3. But just from them hearing, they're thinking it, they want to leave, but to hear somebody in front of them saying, we can do this, and this, and then a year, you could actually be ready to hand in your resignation.
Mm.
And then what I've observed is they use perfectionism as a crutch. Oh, I have to get this done first, and I have to make sure blah, 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 and I have to see this, and I have to be really clear on. And then I always say to them, but that's why you hire a coach. That's why you're here in front of me right now. You need to develop these tools, and I have them. I have a toolbox filled with everything that you will need, but you have to show yourself some grace, give yourself the permission. This is your own thing. You might not be used to having your own thing, but you say you want your own thing. So start to envision it. Picture your ideal scenario. What does your life look like 6 months or a year from now? Ooh, CJ, yeah, I can do this, this, and this. All right, let's reverse engineer. And what's the first thing you have to do? Because the other thing, I call it the 0 to 100 mentality. They're at 0 and their minds are at 100. Oh my God, I have to do this. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Pause. And meet me back at step 1. You are at 100 right now. Meet me back at step 1. And step 1 could be something really, really simple. Making the decision, or researching that course or that program or that certification, or honing in on who your ideal client is. But you're already at step 100, when there's all these little things that you'll have to do to get to that point. We just have to start, and we just have to start small and maintain some semblance of consistency to show yourself and your life and your time that you are actually in control of it. If you want to define your freedom, you have to be able to make the choice or make the decision that I'm going to do these small, consistent things every day, every week, whatever it takes, until I get to that point where I can actually walk away, and I'll have somebody to support me on the journey, so it's not as terrifying.
Right.
Your side hustle is your thing. I'm not here to take anything away from you. You tell me what you have, and we'll fill in the gaps. Of course, we need to figure out the financial piece. You got to get used to looking at your numbers. You got to understand how you can supplement your salary, what you're replacing. So you get to your side hustle to the point where it's outshining your 9 to 5. So you're in a beautiful position because you're still at your 9 to 5, and you can leverage that to prepare yourself to leave and to become your own boss. There's so much you can learn while you're still at your 9 to 5. So many skills. So walk into your 9 to 5 every day and treat it like a business opportunity. Okay, what can I learn today? Ooh, I need to learn automations, and I need to learn systems. I need to learn how to communicate better. I need to learn how to negotiate. I need to learn how to network. Guess what? You're doing that every single day at your 9 to 5, at your corporate job. So when they start to do the little things consistently, and they say, okay, they come back and we talk about it. Okay, what did you learn today? What did you do last week? What are we going to do next? And they realize, I do have control of this. This is my journey. Forget what everybody else is doing, because everybody is on their own journey, or at least should be on their own journey. And let's make this yours. This is about you, your time, and your freedom. So what may have worked for person A is not going to work for you. Let's just keep it real. Are you setting the right goal? So whenever I start working with a client, I don't even jump into the goal setting right away. Let's look at the different areas of your life. I have 12 areas of your life. Self-care is area number 1. Business is area number 12. All these different things have to make sense so your business can fit into your life. Let's talk about your values. Let's talk about you establishing boundaries. Let's talk about when you define your ideal client. Who are you talking to? Why are you talking to them? Why are you the solution to their problem? What's their problem? Before we get to the point where we say, okay, let's do ABC to get to this point. What's your desired outcome? What's the actual outcome? Let's talk about all these other things so that you can set realistic goals. It's all about the realistic goals. It's not just setting goals. We can all set goals. We can all do that. But do they make sense for you, your life, your path, and your freedom?
What have you noticed in like post-pandemic as well? Because that period of time really changed the road for many people in terms of like, what am I doing with my life? I mean, we always have these moments where you're like, okay, this is not happening. I was seeing a lot of people putting content out about the quiet quitting and the great resignation, where, after however long like your own particular lockdown situation was in your country or state or wherever, that it gave people pause and it gave them time to maybe realize that the way that they were doing things were not workable, or there was
Right.
another way to work it. You know,
Yes.
and I think especially with many people who realized that it was possible to work from home and be equally as effective
Yeah.
without having to go in the office all the time, you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
can be done from home, because I think that's part of the thing that has, you know, everyone thinks you go to work, you go to work, so you have to go somewhere, like physically, you know, kind of take
Yeah.
on that thing that you have to go somewhere, and and I think until you actually see it for yourself, all the talking won't
Mm.
convince you that you don't have to go somewhere. I know when, especially when I was doing websites and stuff like that, I could lie in bed all day long and make money. You
Yeah.
know, because
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly.
like I didn't even have to get up, because and that was wild to me, because as well I came from an employee mindset. You know,
Yeah.
that's what's, you know, doing the right thing was, even though I was always trying to do something else, I still had an employment mindset around me, because that's all I knew. And also that was the conversations that I could have. So I could only, you know, trying to bring entrepreneurial conversations to people who are, you know, deciding to stay in employment as well is kind of like crosshairs. You know,
Yeah.
how do you offer guidance and coaching to your clients when they're having that kind of thing, you know, when they're probably like 6 months in or something, and they're really seeing you know, their side hustle work, they're changing, and now they're realizing that they're at an odds with the environment that they've worked in. You know, they can see that they're not the same person anymore. And
Yeah.
there's always, you know, if you're doing that transition, there's always that transition point where you've changed, but you still might need to stay in that situation for like maybe a couple months longer. And
Mm-hmm.
there's that discomfort, and but then also a feeling of, you know, maybe alienation if you mention it to it, or just feeling different, because
Yes.
they know that they've changed, and they know that they're
Yes.
about to walk into different spaces, have different conversations. But of course you've got people who are still there who haven't tried. How do you guide them through that transition point where they're really feeling the shift of themselves pull out?
You, I, are you asking some amazing questions? I love these because now I'm picturing clients and having those conversations with them and them starting to realize. But when they get to that point when they see that they have outgrown their 9 to 5, it usually has come after months of work. It
Mm.
usually has come after, which is why I had designed the program to be a year. And a year may seem like a really long time. I'm like, it really isn't.
Yeah, yeah.
When you think about all the work that you have to put in to make the decision to shift from employee to entrepreneur, to walk away from the stability and the benefits and the predictability and the structure, that all takes time. But once they've gotten to that point where they're like, this is not, it's not feeling right. It's feeling, and I see that my side hustle, we've worked on it. My side hustle is generating consistent income. I'm really clear on my goals, and I don't feel like I fit in. So it's before they definitely never did, because that's why they came to me in the first place and they want to. But
Mm.
now it's for them to kind of really vocalize it, and it's resting on their hearts. I'm like, okay, the shift has happened. The shift is happening. So let's talk about the emotional preparedness. Let's talk about the things that people don't talk about. Because,
Mm.
you always hear about going from employee to entrepreneur. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I left my 9 to 5 and I'm my own boss. And this is so great. It gets ugly. It gets icky.
Mhm.
You will doubt. You will be afraid. You will want to go back to the 9 to 5. You will absolutely want to quit. All of that will come up. I'm saying that with absolute certainty. All of that will come up. I know that I dealt with it.
Mm.
Hey, 8 years in, I'm like, is this worth it?
Yeah.
Always have that little moment. So
Mm.
it is talking about that emotional preparedness. The mindset shift is starting to happen. It is happening. You're in that process. Let's add that emotional piece in there. How are you going to manage your expectations? How are you going to deal with when you have 1 week of consistent income, and then the following month things kind of sort of trickle in. Well, let's talk about, having that safety net. Let's see what you can save you while you're still at your 9 to 5. You can put that money away. You can really look at your funds, know that you can save and have something ready for 6 months, a year, however long it takes. So you have that safety net, as I'd mentioned, so that it isn't as scary. So when you walk away, you've done all the things, you've checked all the boxes. And the biggest piece is always that financial piece, the uncertainty, right? So great. You're generating consistent income and you're showing up online. You got the content strategy, the marketing, all of that down. But with entrepreneurship, there is still that tiny piece where there's really no structure and things can completely stop. But once you can prepare yourself emotionally, let's have let's talk about the hard things. Let's ask the really difficult questions. What happens when? What would you do if? Hey, this can happen. Or 3 people can say yes to you this week and then completely ghost you. What do you do then? Right? And then to kind of start to get them used to like, oh, wow, how would I deal with this? How do I keep going? And it also is about showing yourself grace, giving yourself permission. You won't have everything figured out. Every single day, every single week will not be the absolute same. Some will be completely mundane, and other times things will completely plummet. They'll skyrocket. It's an emotional roller coaster. So we have to talk about that emotional piece. And my 3 pillars are emotions, mindset, strategy. And I did it that way on purpose. Let's talk about how you're feeling, because I believe how you feel impacts what you think and ultimately what you'll do. And if you're not feeling it, or if you're doubting, or you're scared, or you're whatever it is, you're not in the right headspace to make the right decisions for your business, to show up in the right way. Maybe you start to show up out of desperation. Maybe you need to diversify. And that's one of the things, having multiple streams of income. What else can you do? So if, your coaching, your consulting, your design business isn't quite where it is, where else can you leverage your skills? What else is aligned with what you can do so that you can still generate income? Let's have all of those conversations while you still have something consistent that you can continue to put things away. And now that I've had this scary conversation with you, now you're really determined. Oh my gosh, CJ, I really got to work on my safety nets. But I think it's really the biggest piece is the emotional preparedness. And that's the piece that more and more people are starting to talk about it now, because entrepreneurs love to highlight our wins, our successes. Look at how much I made. Look at how many clients I have. Look at what I did, ABC, which is great. But how long did it take you to get there? How many nights did you stay up? You couldn't even sleep because it's like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to find my next client. I haven't heard from these 5 people I talked to last week. Am I going to be okay? What do I do? So let's prepare you emotionally and managing your expectations so that you're better ready for it.
Yeah. And you're talking about the people that are out there on social, putting, and I know when you go on social media, and especially providing content to, just get people more used to your world, your way of thinking, your mindset, to get a feel for whether they're familiar enough with you and what you, who you are and what you stand for, what you seem to stand for, to then creep in as well. Because one of the things I'll say that I've noticed is to be putting out the content, and then also to be patient, because it's not necessarily someone that just sees you, like watches one reel, listens to one podcast, clicks the link, jumps on a call and goes in. Usually, many of the conversations I've had is like, do you know what, I've been listening to you for so and so time, and these are the people that will probably watch my stuff and won't like it, won't comment. So especially when you're putting things out there, a lot of the time is, I'd be like, man, is anyone listening to this? You're like, I don't know, especially with the podcast for many years. I'm like, am I going to still do this? I'm like, well, yeah, I'm going to still do this. Is it, and just remind myself of what I'm doing, because even having done so many years of it doesn't mean that I'm not asking myself all the time, have I turned into an employee within my own, within my own work, and where I'm just dialing it in, or how can I like tweak it, make it better, make it more refined so that I'm up leveling myself. And
Yes.
then I can speak more to, whoever's on the journey with me can then also see where I'm moving and I'm shifting and I'm changing. Because I think as well, this would be something important for you to talk to, as in this day and age, especially being an entrepreneur and using social media as the mouthpiece for what you do and who you are, is about the brand being part of you. It's not just like you're the person, it's like it's all about you, and you have to be almost like an embodiment of what it is that you're offering, because people
Yeah.
want that extra thing now. It's like we've all got the platforms, we've got the same platforms as all the big celebs, but how are we going to differentiate ourselves if we don't have 40 million followers? How do we
Right.
how do
Oh my
they could be
goodness.
bots, who knows? But, like, how do we speak to, by using social media, how do we speak to our ideal customer when we've got an idea of who she is? Let me talk from myself,
Hmm.
who
Hmm.
she is in our mind, and how do we communicate to her? I mean, do you walk your clients through that side of things as well? Like, once they've got the avatar of who she is, how
Yes.
to communicate to that client, that one client, because the idea is that you're, speak to one and
The
many
speak,
will.
yes. And they will, once you have an idea, and I also tell them, like, when you're designing an ideal client, you can have, a couple different like target audiences, if you will, or niches. But when you're speaking to one, speak to one. Don't ever try to speak to everyone. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
trying to please everyone either. Oh, everybody needs this, and I'm trying to sell to. No, you're not.
Oh.
Let's not do that. But it's definitely, and I love that you touched on with the social media piece and identifying an ideal client. And I like to take them through an exercise when they're working on their values. It's like, what's important to you? What do you want people to know about you? What do you want people to, when you're not in a room, what are they saying about you? What have been your proudest moments? How do you share your stories? What have been your successes? And if you would ask people closest to you, what are the words that you notice are a pattern in what they're saying?
Mm.
Because your values should be aligned with your ideal client's values. What's important to you will be important to them. So the language, you're essentially speaking the same language. And it doesn't matter if you have 12 followers or 12 million followers. If you are very, very clear on who you're speaking to, what you're saying, who you are, and there's that know, like, and trust factor. We hear about that all the time. And if people know you, they like you, and they'll trust you.
Mm-hmm.
And you focus on that and not on the vanity metrics. Oh, this many people didn't like it, or I didn't get any comments, and blah blah blah. Much like you, with your podcast, I've experienced that too, or people just decline. A lot of my clients, they've never engaged with my
Mm.
content. Oh, but I saw you on Instagram, or I saw you on LinkedIn, and I love what you're doing. It's very inspiring. And I'm like, I don't recognize your name at all, right? I don't know who this person is. So then you realize it's because what you're saying resonates with your ideal client.
Mm.
Have a very clear message. This is who I am. This is what I do. Here's my secret sauce. I know this is what your problem is.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they don't even know what their problem is. They just want a solution, right? You have to help them to identify, you're probably feeling like A, B, and C. And you probably want to feel like, you talk about the transformation. Here's how I can get you there.
Mm.
And you talk about it, because again, we have to remember, we're not trying to speak to every single person. So once you get that out of your head, you're not trying to speak to every person. You're thinking of that one person and what you have in common with them, and why would they come to you?
Mm.
What is that unique thing, your you-ness, that thing about you that would resonate with them? So look at your core values. Never, never lose sight of what is important to you, because there will be the people that come, because the saying, all money ain't good money.
Well,
There are people that will come to you, and it's like, this could be a client, but is it worth it?
no, not
Right?
always.
It's not worth it sometimes. So as long as this feels very misaligned.
Mm-hmm.
And then in one of the things with being able to, while you're at your 9 to 5 and leveraging your 9 to 5 and understanding communication skills, is having those difficult conversations. So you already have that tool in your toolbox already because you know how to communicate your boundaries. You know what's important to you in order to say yay or no, and yay or nay, and to recognize when it's okay to walk away.
Right.
But remember what is core, what's important to you, because as part of your personal brand, you are the one showing up. You want people to know about you when your coaching business or your branding or your consulting or your design business, whatever it is. But you are the person behind it. So what do people know about you? And one of the fun exercises I like to take them on is write yourself a 5-star review in the voice of a very satisfied client, a happy client. What would they be saying about you? So write something up on Google and see what words come up. Or those words are the words that you would describe yourself, or what your core values are. Are those the things that are important to you? Because that's what you want people to remember about you when they do go on Google or your website and write that testimony and they're singing your praises, or when you're not in the room and your name comes up and they're saying, oh, she's these 5 things. What are those 5 things? And you will attract the right people because that will be those same things will be important to them as well.
Question that came to me as you were speaking: how do you guide your clients to discover who they are? You know, especially if you have been an employee for a number of years, and maybe that's all you've ever known in terms of your work life and your career, and then to step out and be an entrepreneur in the world is to actually, like, the knowledge of self needs to be like off the charts, I believe. Like you really have to know who you are and also what you're not, so that you can handle criticism, because trust me,
oh my goodness,
so that you can handle when people don't like your stuff or want to say things. And at least as long as you know who you are, then when someone's saying something about you that's not true, it's just like, well, that's not true. But if you don't know who you are, then criticism will spin you out. So how do you do you have like tools, exercises, or something that you can say to someone, this is how you start to find your Eunice?
It's about recognizing that we have been conditioned. There's a certain type of conditioning that we need to break free of, if you will. And there's certain beliefs or lessons or stories that we were told. We were essentially told, this is who you are. This is what you're supposed to do. And now you go to school, you get the education, you get the higher education. We have our caregivers, our parents, whoever raised us, telling us right from wrong, telling us who we are. No, you shouldn't do that. No, you can't speak to that person that way. No, you must hug this person. You must say hello. But you'd be like, but I don't like them, or I don't feel comfortable around. But no, it's all about respect. So it comes back to, I like to say, untelling those stories so you can retell them in your own way. So like when those thoughts or those beliefs, or that imposter syndrome, as we like to describe it, when that comes up, is pausing and saying, where is this coming from? What triggered this? Why do I feel this way? How do I want to feel? Is this true? It's not true? Okay, then what is true? What is true about you? What have you discovered about yourself? And digging deeper and asking the really difficult questions, the questions that we probably weren't, again, given the tools to be able to dig a little bit deeper to realize, oh, there's so much more to me. So I like to encourage them to talk to the 6-year-old version of yourself, to nurture that inner child. So when I do that exercise, I say, what does 6-year-old CJ, Christen, want to hear today? How would she feel in this moment? And once I started to do that exercise, I realized there were just times where my feelings weren't validated. I was a very shy, very quiet child, which was great for my parents, but there were times I didn't know how to communicate when I was sad or I was angry. I was provided for, life was life was a certain way. So now I become an adult, and now when I'm sad or I'm angry, it's like, how do I deal with this? What happens here? I'm not supposed to be sad. I'm not supposed to express anger. And we know these as like negative, if you will, emotions. They're emotions. We're supposed to feel them. We're supposed to go through it. So I will say, if you're sad, acknowledge it. Don't brush it. Don't push anything aside. Don't brush anything. Why am I mad? Why am I sad? Where's this coming from? Ew, why do I feel like this? And how do I want to feel? And that's the important thing. How do I want to feel? So you go through the journey of getting through the icky parts, getting through the little ugly things, so you can tell your story that way. So I like to use analogies. I'll say, if you're sad or if you're angry, welcome it in. Open the door and say, you can come in, but don't take your shoes off. Let's talk right here. Let's see where you came from, why you're here, what triggered it. Okay, we've gotten to the bottom of it. You can go now. But it's important to acknowledge those feelings, nurture that inner child. A lot of things we carry with us through our lives, they started in childhood. They started in those formative years. And we've gotten into adulthood and we're used to not being provided with certain tools. So now what do you do to fill your toolbox? I'll keep referencing the toolbox. What do you do now to fill your toolbox? You got to go out and you got to find those tools. How do you find those tools? You look at what you need to fix. And if you don't necessarily know exactly what type of screw or what length or the shape of the head, somebody else is going to know that for you to guide you through it, to help you to uncover and discover the person that you're really, really, truly meant to be. But validate and talk to your inner child, because there's so much there that we need to spend time with that younger version of ourselves and say, it's okay, I got you. You may not have had everything at that age, but I'm here and I'm making a change and I've made a decision, and be intentional with what you're doing so you can actually become the person that you were meant to become.
Fantastic. I love it. I want to ask you this. What would you say has been the biggest surprise or the biggest awakening in yourself on your entrepreneurial journey?
Oh, mine, I like to describe myself as a reformed people pleaser. It was always very important to me, and I'm still working on it, but it was always very important to me that others were happy. And that I am doing everything within my power to make sure I don't upset people. And so learning to say no, and that people respected my no, I think was one of the biggest things for me. And when I first started, I actually, again, speaking on that being intentional, I actually started to practice saying, this was like my first year of entrepreneurship. I started practice saying, I don't care for that. I'm like, oh, okay, well, do you want to? Next time. But what really surprised me is people respected it. Well, most nice. the important ones.
Say, you lucked out.
The important ones they did. When I told them I don't really care for that. Like, oh, well, what do you want to do? Oh, well, maybe next time. Yeah, maybe next time. And it's like, wow, I can say no and people are okay with it. Life goes on. This is amazing. Right. And then being able to really define what's important to me and my core value and what do I want to do? Because I don't always want to do all the things that other people wanted to do. And that was where I was really started to start my own little healing, if you will, of having to try to please every single person. But I think that was definitely my biggest surprise, was just, no, I'm good. Thanks, but no thanks. So now it's gotten to the point where I started off as I don't care for that, to just a simple no, I don't want to. Why not? Because I don't want to. And you have to be okay with that. And if I know that I don't want to do something and I'm okay with it, they're just going to have to come around to it. If they don't, that's on them. That's not on me, because I'm not doing something I don't want to do anymore.
Right. I love that. And how does Reiki, how do you bring that into your coaching?
So with Reiki, and because Reiki is all energy, and if a client is open to it, of course, getting their permission to say, can we practice some Reiki? Can we do this Reiki infused coaching, if you will?
Mm.
And being able to help them to open up different channels and to just be more mindful and spiritually aware. And when they're working on something or they're talking about something, and if it just doesn't feel right, it doesn't resonate with them, it doesn't make sense to them, and it could be something that you're holding on to that you just need to release. Just let it go. Because it's like you have this fist and you're holding on to this thing. And if you just let go, you can reach out and grab something else. So with Reiki, it's almost like giving permission to just let things flow. And the things that do not serve you, let them go and make room for to welcome the energy, which turns into the people, the things, the opportunities, the offers to come in. But a lot of times we're holding on to things that no longer serve us. And if we just took a moment to let go, it would make a world of difference. So I like to pause during the session. Can we just take a moment, just take a couple breaths, get a little bit centered. How are you feeling? Did anything come up? Do you feel safe enough to talk about it? Do you want to talk about it? If not, journal about it later. See what comes up. I always encourage the journaling. You don't have to tell me every single thing. I always ensure that I am creating a safe space for my clients, but I also, of course, respect their wishes. And most times I know that 99.9% of the time they will share because I have created that safe space. But if I would still encourage, spend some time and journal about it. Like, so I would treat them like, because as a Reiki master, I do have the full training. I will treat them like after a Reiki session with a client, and I say, show yourself some grace, reflect, and journal. See what came up and see how you feel about it. If you have any questions about anything, by all means, you can reach out to me. There might be a few more things that I can ask you to help you to dig a little bit deeper, to uncover anything. But this is really about you. This is really about your journey. We have to get used to spending time with ourselves. Our minds are already so busy. And especially as entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, it's constant noise because it's just, I got to go. I got these goals. I got to make the money. I got it this. I got it that. Just give yourself 5 minutes. This 5 minutes is all you need just to start. And next thing you know, it'll be 10. It could be 15. But spend some time with yourself and dig deeper. We have to go deeper. Where did that come from? And Reiki really helps to give them the permission, if you will, because now they're in that space of, oh, we're actually working on this. We're actually doing this right now. And things will come up that I didn't even realize, oh, wow, like I didn't even know that was something I held on to. And that's why I will encourage them. You can talk about it now, or you can journal later. Sometimes my coaching sessions, we don't even talk about like their side hustles. We talk about them. We talk about what they're feeling or how they're feeling or what they did or didn't do. How do you feel about not doing that thing or doing that thing? Because at the end of the day, it's a human behind the business. So if you are not taking care of yourself, as cliche as it sounds, if you are not taking care of yourself, the human, you cannot and will not show up the way you want to in an aligned way in your business. The best version of yourself, to show up as the best version of yourself in your business, treat yourself the best. Pay attention to yourself and show yourself that grace. And again, with managing expectations and knowing some things might just not work out. Are you going to be okay with that? And when you don't want to show up, the other thing too, I tell them is if you don't want to show up, don't. If you're having a bad day, have the bad day. Tomorrow is a new day, my friend. And you can start again, but give yourself that permission. Don't brush anything, sweep anything under the rug. Don't push anything aside. It's because at some point it will come up and you don't want it to come up at the wrong time. Deal with it as it comes up and give yourself permission to deal with it and show yourself some grace.
And what do you see or envisage as the future of entrepreneurship? technology is changing. And interestingly, I speak to young people also as well, and some of them are still on the journey of wanting a career in certain things, like usually in like kind of, you know, established things like law and finance and all of that kind of stuff. But even though within those conversations that I have with them, I'm like, well, are you being taught about the
Mm,
emergence of AI and other technologies, and what's, you know, is your industry going to be accepting humans in on the other side of your education, you know, in like 5 6 years time when you come out? Is there going to
yeah.
be what you're being trained for, and are the people who are teaching you about life and business and work aware of what's going? Because I think I mean, you know, what I'm seeing is that there is, because there's this shift, and maybe not all education systems are taking notice of what's coming down the track, so they're still teaching students for a traditional outcome, you know, so that
Mm,
when they come out of the education system, in, you know, depending on where they are in their degrees or masters or whatever, um is that industry going to be shaped the way that they're learning for right now? Because even within the industries, many of the industries, people are like, okay, like, do I, you know, have I got the skills? Am I skilling up to be able to work alongside it, or what's going to happen? So, um, you know, are you seeing shifts in entrepreneurship, like what the way that people are looking at the landscape? Do you think it's going to escalate? I mean, I've got my thoughts on that as well.
mm.
Or what do you envisage? What do you get a feel for? You know, the future of
I
work and
feel like definitely ever since the pandemic, or the start of the pandemic, there's been a spike in how many people have side hustles, or how many
mm,
people are realizing they have some entrepreneurial spark or some kind of entrepreneurial potential. I also think that the climate we're in, people realize they need to have multiple streams of income,
mhm,
and people want to be able to diversify how they earn their money. So I feel like with entrepreneurship, more and more people are trying it out. There more and more people are, even if they don't make it full time, even if they do just start a side hustle and they're happy at their 9 to 5, and they just want to have some others. And a side hustle, what I like to stress too is it doesn't have to be a full blown business. Like there are so many ways that you can earn extra income without being like a full entrepreneur.
mm,
But I do feel like, and with all the tools and access people have to just technology, and with AI, and if you use AI the right way to really kind of up level your business, because I mean the topic around AI, I like it because I figured out how to use it. Not every single person has done that just yet, but
mm.
it's going to continue to grow. It's not going anywhere.
Exactly.
Essentially, it's,
Yeah.
but I think now more than ever, what I have been observing is people realize the importance as we get further and further away, because technology is just at our fingertips. We have all these devices. The importance of human connection,
Mm,
the importance of authentic connections, the importance of emotional intelligence,
right.
and having to being able to be mindful of how you interact with others, because you will get used to interacting with this machine that spews all this information and that can basically take over your day for you.
Mm,
That we are realizing there's a gap, and before, so we're trying, it's almost like we're trying to fill the gap, or just make sure it doesn't get too wide. And I'm seeing a lot of talk around connection, authentic connections. And with those authentic connections, and with networking and proper networking, and how we go further together, and being able to uplift each other, that has been a very beautiful thing to see. but definitely more and more, especially women, are realizing I have this thing I want to do. You know what? I'm gonna pursue it and see where it takes me. Some try. I've had clients go back to the 9 to 5. They tried and like, man, this is not for me. Or I've had the clients where 5 years later, they're still plugging along. They know it's coming. They're doing the work. They're doing the things consistently. But more and more women are definitely starting their own thing, or at least thinking about it. I think just having more conversations like this, where they realize that they have access to a lot more than they thought they did. Because back like when I was sitting at my 9 to 5 and I didn't want to, I didn't realize like what I could have done then to leave when I wanted to leave originally, till it got to the point where I manifested that layoff. But now they're realizing I just need to have these certain tools. Oh, I just need to work on my mindset. Oh, I just need to be able to do this and this. I just need to be able to figure out a business plan and creating a system and identifying my ideal client and how to generate consistent income and how to make those connections, because there's room at the top. It doesn't matter how many people are doing. Yeah, there's 8 quadrillion coaches, but they're not me. They're not you. And there's room for everyone, because I'm not trying to serve every single person, and neither are you. So how can we help each other and lift each other up so that we can be able to help others more, help more people who need us? So I think entrepreneurship it's heading in the right direction. I think it's there's a lot of independence that's coming with it too, and people just challenging the status quo. And that's what I really love. And that's my mission. And I just want you to challenge the status quo and break up with that conditioning. And if there's something you want, there's a spark, let's just try it out and see where it takes you. And more people are becoming a little bit more, I don't want to say it's not risky, but a little bit more adventurous with kind of pursuing their passion.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm all for that, pursuing passion. And I think being an entrepreneur is kind of us going back to the way things were, before we had this industrial age that we're kind of coming out of, where everyone was going and working in a big corporation, though it was small businesses back in the day, wasn't it? It was small businesses or family businesses or group, it was community. And then we got into this big stuff.
Technology. So we're coming back to
and technology is coming in to allow us to decentralize and become authentic, if you allow it to be a partner and a tool that you work alongside, as opposed to being consumed by it. Because we all know, there's you can get pulled into different directions on the internet. Even when I'm doing research for just trying to learn some stuff, like that in itself, let alone the entertainment piece. So it's a good age, and it's good that there are coaches like yourself to help people women transition out of it, because it's more, I hear the conversation more of like, so it's not just a flat no now. Whereas before it'd be like, no, I couldn't do that.
I couldn't do that. Yeah.
Whereas
Oh,
now
not
it's like,
me.
how? Oh, okay. But what happens if, more questions are being asked as to how it's possible? And like you say, have multiple streams of income. They don't always have to be the ones that are bringing in the thousands, but even if it's bringing a couple of hundred or something like that, just have it there. And I know when I first set up a tiny little website like eons and eons ago to like do a little course, like a little workshop, and the first time I got a notification, an email that someone had found me on the internet and paid, it blew my mind. And I think it was like £10, but it was the fact that the process worked.
Yeah,
That
I
was
know.
like, oh my
Yeah.
God, it's
Yeah.
possible. Yeah.
Uh,
So yeah, good times coming. And
yeah.
Yeah. So any last words, and then also just let everyone know where they can find you as well, Christen, please.
Okay. Last words. I would say, just to piggyback on what, like, wrapping everything up, is really about challenging the status quo. If you, like, give yourself permission to pursue that thing, what if that little mustard seed, like, just whatever it is, try it out. You just never know, because it's a lot of times it's fear. When I talk to women who don't have a side hustle, they're like, "Oh, I'm going to work 9 to 5." I said, "What if you can start one without?" I actually did this as a podcast episode. What if you can start up your side hustle, and it didn't take all this effort, and it didn't take all this, and they're like, "Yeah, I'd absolutely do it if it didn't take." But it's just knowing there's no fear of failure. Overcome that fear. Fear is also a part of that conditioning. We are hardwired to resist change. So anything new that seems risky, of course, you're going to say no at first. Or I can't, I won't. But just you challenge yourself, give yourself permission to see where it can take you, and just completely surprise yourself. And then, as far as where people can reach me, my website is Christen and James, 2 N's.com. I am on predominantly LinkedIn and Instagram. I also have a podcast, Side Hustle Growth podcast, where I share tips and advice and my own experiences as an entrepreneur. If anybody wants to learn more about their getting some ideas on for their journey, then by all means they can check that out as well on all platforms and YouTube. And I start with like a 15-minute, I call it a 15-minute vibe check. Just come see how we vibe. Let's have a conversation. Tell me what your idea is or what your side hustle is, and let's see how I can support you. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. But let's see how we vibe, and we'll take things from there. Start with just 15 minutes. Come check my vibe.
Love it. Love it. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This was a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Christen, for sharing your story with me, and thank you for listening. If you're enjoying her conversations, I would like to encourage you to leave a review and share this episode with somebody you feel would benefit from hearing from Christen. You can find out more about me on my website. That's carolmaywhittick.com, CarolMaywhittick.com. You can find me on Instagram as Kazmick, CAZMICK, and on LinkedIn and Facebook, Carol May Whittick. Until the next episode, take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.